Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. The Trump administration is announcing their intention, loud and clear, that they want to use every tool of the state at their disposal to suppress domestic political dissent. The president himself said as much today, bullying reporters and telling one, maybe we'll come after you, too.
What do you make Pam Bondi saying she's going to go after hate speech? Is that, I mean, a lot of your allies say hate speech is free speech.
We'd probably go after people like you because you treat me so unfairly. It's hate. You have a lot of hate in your heart. Maybe they'll come after ABC. Well, ABC paid me $16 million recently for a form of hate speech, right? Your company paid me $16 million for a form of hate speech. So maybe they'll have to go after you.
In the past 48 hours, Trump's inner circle and his allies in right-wing media have been citing the shooting death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk as a justification to crack down not just on the accused perpetrator, but to bring the full weight of the government down on all their perceived enemies and opponents, the left, even though there has been, thankfully, from the actual elected leaders of the Democratic Party, a welcome, universal, and unanimous condemnation of the murder and of all political violence. Even though researchers with no political axe to grind have, when they have looked into the question, consistently found that most American domestic extremist violence is statistically right-wing violence. The New York Times reports President Trump and his top advisors threatened on Monday to unleash the power of the federal government to punish what they allege was a left-wing network that funds and incites violence, seizing on Charlie Kirk's killing to make broad and unsubstantiated claims about their political opponents. That is the plan plain as day. In fact, they announced it on a special episode of The Charlie Kirk Show, hosted by Vice President J.D. Vance.
We are going to channel all of the anger that we have over the organized campaign that led to this assassination to uproot and dismantle these terrorist networks. So it is a vast domestic terror movement. And with God as my witness, we are going to use every resource we have at the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and throughout this government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks and make America safe again for the American people.
Terrorist networks, there is no left-wing terror movement. And certainly there's zero evidence whatsoever that any left-wing terror movement was involved in this murder. And in the complete absence of any evidence of any vast plots, Vance instead singled out an opinion column published by The Nation that criticized Kirk's cultural legacy while also condemning the violence that killed him. It was then the Vice President of the United States called for a war on the free press and its supporters in rhetoric that echoed anti-Semitic conspiracy theories.
And there is no unity with the people who fund these articles, who pay the salaries of these terrorist sympathizers. Did you know that the George Soros Open Society Foundation and the Ford Foundation, the groups who funded that disgusting article justifying Charlie's death, do you know they benefit from generous tax treatment? They are literally subsidized by you and me, the American taxpayer. And how do they reward us? By setting fire to the house built by the American family over 250 years.
Those words echo a lot of what Viktor Orban in Hungary has said as he has gone after George Soros and independent institutions of civil society. I mean, that's the Vice President of the United States grossly mischaracterizing an article he seemed not to read, spinning it into part of a vast and false Soros conspiracy, saying there's no unity with the other side. But it's not just Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. I mean, the top law enforcement official in the country, Attorney General Pam Bondi, is out there talking about putting cuffs on people whose speech she finds offensive.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech.
I mean, again, we're talking about speech here, right? I mean, even the most odious examples are speech, and the stuff they're going after tends to be stuff that is criticizing the person who was very, very tragically slain. Now, that is all what is happening on the higher frequencies. On the lower frequencies, there's a kind of general frenzy being whipped up online by MAGA supporters to find and target everyday people who posted things online that conservatives find objectionable to get those ordinary, regular people fired. A campaign that reached an absurd crescendo Monday when Bondi threatened federal legal action against an Office Depot where an employee reportedly refused to make copies of a poster for a Charlie Kirk vigil.
Employers, you have an obligation to get rid of people. You need to look at people who are saying horrible things, and they shouldn't be working with you. Businesses cannot discriminate. If you want to go in and print posters with Charlie's pictures on them for a vigil, you have to let them do that. We can prosecute you for that. I have Harmeet Dillon right now in our civil rights unit looking at that immediately, that Office Depot had done that.
The overreach here becoming so obvious and absurd, even some far-right conservatives are uneasy with the implications. Right-wing personality Matt Walsh posting today, "Get rid of her." Today, "This is insane. Conservatives have fought for decades," he's right, "for the right to refuse service to anyone. We won that fight. Now Pam Bondi wants to roll it all back for no reason." Of course, Bondi still has her job, unlike a growing list of columnists and professors, teachers, medical professionals, even store clerks and football coaches who have been fired or bullied or threatened for their posts in the past week. Posts that sometimes are just quoting things that Charlie Kirk, a public figure, a very unabashed, a proud activist, said in his life in the course of his work. Keep in mind, all this pressure to speak and act the right way comes from the same political movement that attempted a, violent insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. An anti-democratic coup in which at least 174 law enforcement officials were assaulted. One ultimately died. And it's hard to recall now, but absolutely critical to remember that even the most loyal supporters of Donald Trump knew at the time what January 6th was. And they also took pains to distinguish between nonviolent protesters who showed up at the Capitol that day and the violent folks who actually assaulted cops.
Look, if you protested peacefully on January the 6th and you've had Merrick Garland's Department of Justice treat you like a gang member, you should be pardoned. If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned.
That was J.D. Vance this year, this calendar year. Now, of course, he has changed his tune when Trump pardoned all the insurrectionists, even the violent ones, on his first day in office. The first signal he sent to the American people about his feelings about political violence was approval and encouragement. And now Trump and Vance and the rest of the administration sense this moment as an opportunity in which they can quash dissent and the freedoms that we cherish. Michael Fanone is a former Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police officer who was brutally attacked while defending the Capitol on January 6th. He's now a spokesman, advisory board member, Home of the Brave, an organization highlighting the harms of Trump's second term. Congressman Greg Casar is a Democrat of Texas and chair of the Progressive Caucus, and they join me now. Michael, I immediately thought of you when I saw among the things that J.D. Vance said was, he said, look, there is no both sides issue here. The left supports political violence more than the right does. That's just a fact. And again, this could get into a sort of perverse kind of accounting that's in some ways impossible. There's hundreds of millions of people in America, all of whom have access to social media and can say whatever. But when you're talking about political leadership, I thought of you because you were on the receiving end of political violence. You know how toxic, insidious, and dangerous it is. And the people that did that to you were pardoned by the president. So what do you think?
I'll tell you what I think. I think that no American politician has done more to normalize political violence in this country other than Donald J. Trump. He has used insightful language, dehumanizing language to describe his dissenters or his political opponents. And I would argue that in pardoning at least the 530 some odd insurrectionists who violently assaulted police officers on January 6, 2021, he is advocating for the use of political violence in furtherance of his administration. He has told his supporters that if you commit acts of violence, I've got your back. And this administration will absolve you of any criminal culpability. And that message has resonated with his supporters.
Congressman, those comments by Pam Bondi today and J.D. Vance and others, particularly Pam Bondi, I've seen them sort of reverberate around the Capitol. And I've seen some mixed reaction. And there's been some reporting in the New York Times and Semaphore of Republicans saying, well, wait a second, maybe we're not on board with this. What is your reaction to the words coming from Bondi, Miller, and Vance, and how seriously to take this as essentially a concerted effort to suppress political dissent, normal political speech?
Look, Donald Trump said very early on that he wants to go after his political opponents, crush free speech, and use the full power of the state to try to stop those people that criticize him. And so in this moment where political violence is on the rise, and this is very serious, instead of actually trying to quell political violence, you see Donald Trump sending out Bondi and Vance to start going after magazines, independent press, independent foundations. Instead of actually trying to address the crisis of political violence, they're trying to weaponize this crisis in order to crush free speech. And as we've seen throughout all of Trump's first term, when people say, no, he doesn't really mean that, that's not really going to happen, we see that they go ahead and do it, and do even worse than we imagine. So we have to take this very seriously and make sure that the American people know about and hear about these attacks on free speech, because it's telling that Vance and others are trying to lie about what they're trying to do, because the vast majority of the American people do not support the full weight of the state being used to crush people's peaceful free speech.